people would be walking these dusty roads all day, get all kinds of, nasty stuff between their toes and things like that. And so when you would come in for a dinner party, it was customary to have a rank and file servant at the door who would be there with a towel and a basin of water, and they would wash the dirty feet of the people as they arrived for the dinner party. They would wash their sandals. It was really important in that day because in those days they didn't pull up to a table at a chair and put their feet underneath the table. The tables were about this far off the ground and they reclined. They would kind of lean on an elbow or something. And so when you were leaning at the table and you were eating, your feet were dangerously close to the person next to you face. Some nasty stuff, and let's face it, feet stink, right? So they would provide a rank and file servant. And so here we are, we're behind the glass, and we're watching, and the room is empty. And the first disciple shows up, and he walks into the room, and he doesn't see anybody. And he looks for the rank and file servant, and there is no one there. But he does notice by the door there is a pitcher, a basin of water, and a towel. And he thinks to himself, because if there's no rank and file servant, maybe I should wash my feet, and I could wash. And then I'm not the rank and file kind. I'm not going to do that. And he blows it off, and he looks at the table and tries to size up where Jesus is going to sit because he wants to get a prominent place there because he knows Michelangelo is going to paint, Leonardo da Vinci is going to paint a famous painting one day, and he wants to be in a good spot on that. And he sits down. From behind the glass, we watch the second disciple arrive. Notices the basin of water and the towel. Notices the dirty feet of his buddy over by the table. And he thinks, well, if he didn't do it, I'm not going to be the rank and file guy. And he goes and finds the next best place at the table. And one by one, we watch from behind the pane of glass as each disciple comes in. Same drill with everybody. Not me. I'm going to go get the next best place at the table. And soon they're all sitting at the table. And then Jesus arrives. They've been having an argument over which of them is the greatest. And Jesus walks in and he sees all the dirty feet, 24 dirty feet in that room. He looks at the water, the basin, the towel. And I wonder if in that moment, if he didn't feel like a failure. I wonder if he thought 24/7 for 3 years, I've been with these guys. I've set example after example, teaching after teaching, illustration after illustration. And I can't get these guys one time to humble themselves and to take on the role of a servant and to wash dirty feet. Jesus finds his place at the table, and sometime during the meal, he gets up. And he takes off his outer robe like a rank and file servant would. And he goes over and he takes the towel and he tucks it into his belt and he pours the water in a basin. And he gets down on his hands and knees and begins one by one, toe by toe, washing the dirty feet of these disciples who felt that they were too good to be the rank and file guy. He washes the feet of the one who's going to betray him. He washes the feet of the one who's going to deny him. He washes the feet of all of those who will abandon him in the coming hours when he needs them most as he approaches the cross. And when he's done, he goes back, takes the towel, puts it away, puts on his robe, and rejoins them at the table. I wonder how they felt in that moment. I wonder how moved they were. I mean, think about it. If anyone ever had a reason to be served, Jesus did. Here he is at his greatest hours. He's lived a perfect, sinless life, faced temptation. He's done what nobody else could ever do. In a few hours, he's going to die, and then he's going to raise again. And at the hour, his greatest hour, he's on his hands and knees, washing dirty feet. The greatest among us became the servant of all. Now listen, This Jesus who emptied himself on a cross to come and serve you and to set you free and to give you grace, he's given you a new identity. You're a priest. You have the gift of the Holy Spirit who's given you spiritual gifts that are unique to you, and this is your moment. He has put you at this time in this church for this season for a reason, and he has set the example himself by taking a towel and putting it on his arm and becoming a rank and file servant, and he invites you to do the same. So how about you? Are you going to just talk about it? Or are you going to take the risk? And are you going to jump in? You know, I talk to people every day who have this gnawing sense of dissatisfaction, wondering if they're doing anything with their life that really matters. Sometimes I'll talk to financial planners. They'll say, I've been doing this 20, 30 years. I've made millions for my clients. And some days at the end of the day, I wonder if multiplying other people's money is the best use of my life that I could do. Sometimes you talk to people in advertising. You know, Gene, I spend 60, 70 hours a week trying to convince people to buy Fords instead of Chevys or Hondas instead of Toyotas or whatever it is. And sometimes I wonder if I'm doing anything with my life that really matters. Or Gene, I do data entry. I sit at a computer and a screen 40 hours a week. And sometimes when I'm driving home on a Friday afternoon and I'm fighting traffic, I think, what am I doing with my life that really matters? Friends, my fear for some of you is that you'll go to your grave one day without ever living out this new identity that God has given you, without ever experiencing the thrills and chills of what it is to have that sense that God is using you. But it's up to you. There has to come that moment in your life where you risk it and just jump in.